was talking to another mom the other day, and the mom was like, yeah, you just need to push them more, like keep them up to like, they put their kid who's a year and a half as well up to like 8:30. And I'm like, my kid would be like out of their mind if like he went to bed last night at 7:30, which is like fine time. And it's like 5:45, 6 a.m., no matter what time we put them down. So I'm just like,
yeah.
Every person's different, right? It's
Yeah.
different. Any word from Olivia?
Oh, it sounds like Kayla, she didn't get it. So I'm not sure what the disconnect is. So Kayla, I just sent you her email, and I'm wondering if we could double check that the link.
I don't have the availability via my own email to send it to her. So I think we should just have her use the public link, and I can transfer her over.
Okay.
As a panelist.
Okay.
Just a moment here. It may be going to her junk folder. I'm not sure.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I will try my best here to get her connected.
Elizabeth is trying to log in as well, on the phone, I think.
I don't see any phone numbers.
It's,
Shelly,
yeah.
should we just go through with roll and like approve? Do we have to approve the minutes like we do at the big meeting as well?
Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and do that? And I just sent Olivia the link to the public, resend that. So hopefully she'll get that. Yeah, so let's go ahead.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Can you send to Elizabeth too? Because they're trying to get in as well.
Oh,
yeah, I don't have Elizabeth down for being on this working group, but I will definitely send it to her.
great. Shelly, do you have a list? I do not have a list of who's actually supposed to be in the group.
I'll do roll call in just 1 second.
Great, fantastic, thank you. I'm really good at some things, but organization and notes and tracking, that kind of, no.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. This is the Human Rights and Equity Commission Communications Working Group meeting. It's the second meeting that you've had. We'll go ahead and start with roll call, and then we'll move into a review of the minutes and approval of the minutes. So I'll go ahead with roll call. Melissa Kamanya.
Present.
Okay. Olivia Dudo. I think hopefully I'm going to come back. It's Olivia Sherry Tran.
Here.
Okay. Jasmine Wilder.
Can I pause real quick? Can I say something real quick?
Present.
Yeah.
Sherry, can you help me with the pronunciation of your name?
Yes. It's a silent G, so it's whom.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Mo Mitchell.
Hello, present.
Shireen Solomon. I don't see Shireen on the call. And then Adrienne De La Rosa.
Present.
I'm just trying to pause here for a minute to see if we can get Olivia.
Shelly, this is Kayla. I just moved Olivia over as a panelist, so hopefully she'll be popping up soon.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just note when Olivia is on the phone or on the meeting. So the next would be the approval of the minutes. And Mo, I'm happy to do that, or if you'd like to do that.
I don't care either way. What do I say? Like, I move to approve the minutes? Is that what I said?
So what you want to do is ask if there's any amendments or corrections to the minutes that were submitted to the subcommittee or the working group members.
Any amendments or corrections to the minutes submitted to anybody? Cool.
Then you would ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
A
And a second.
motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Cool. Good talk. Huh?
All right. So let's actually just, so we have a motion and then we have a second. So if Melissa, if you want a motion and then we'll have a second.
So I'm motioning to approve the minutes. Is that what it is?
Right. And then we need a second.
Okay, I'm motioning to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I
I
second.
second. And I made it on the meeting. Hi, everyone.
Oh, Olivia.
Yeah.
So Olivia has joined us, one of our co-chairs of this. And then let's just go ahead and do a quick vote for the minutes to get those approved.
Okay. I'm raising my physical hand.
That would be great.
I'm raising my hand.
Right. I don't see, are there any opposed to the minutes? Or not? Okay, great. Motion carries. The minutes are accepted. And then the last just housekeeping is that on the release of this meeting, we do have an option for people to submit written public comments. We did not receive any comments as of 10 a.m. this morning for this working group. So I just want to let you know that. So I'll turn it over to Mo and Olivia.
Cool.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, Olivia.
Morning.
Morning.
Mo, Jasmine, and I, with the help of Shelly, have put together just some topics to keep us on track for today. The first of which is sort of the commitment statements that we talked about last time, specifically when it comes to Section B in our guidelines. There's a conduct of business in our official HREC guidelines that we all think this group should heavily weigh in on. And then with time remaining, we're thinking about splitting up the remaining 45 minutes in half, but we'll see how far we get. We want to talk about community feedback pathways or contact forms, and I'll take us through some sort of current to future state mapping in a second. But how can community members reach us with either questions about process or public comment or comments about the crises that are happening in the community? Those might be the same solution, or they might be 3-4 different solutions. But we can start to talk through that today. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Yay. Any other comments or like State of the Union business we want to talk through before getting into the work?
I had just had a quick question. I just got a text from Elizabeth and was just wondering, they're on as a panelist right now. Would they be able to speak if needed?
Oh, as a public member?
Well, I was under the impression that subcommittees, it was open to HREC to be here too, not just the subcommittee. So if they wanted to give us feedback about something during, can they come in since they're on as a panelist right now?
I don't see why not. I think,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Elizabeth was on this subgroup, no? But just couldn't make the first one? Maybe not.
I think
yeah,
it's Shireen.
Oh, okay, gotcha. If there's comment, then yeah, absolutely, Elizabeth.
Is there a way, Shelley, to is there something that needs to happen on the city tech end to let Elizabeth into the room?
Yeah, I think, Kayla, do you see Elizabeth on? I didn't see her on as a panelist.
She is not on the attendees or the panelist list. I don't see her on either.
Maybe if she's listening, I've sent her the link to get onto this meeting. And so if she can go to that link, that public link, she'll show up as a guest, and then we can move her over to a panelist as soon as we see her. So we will do that as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a tiny request to add to somewhere. If we could talk about a branded background that we could use when we're representing HREC in the community, that just feels professional and is recognizable. Doesn't have to be today, but it's just something I think would be helpful.
Yeah, let's add that in. And Shelley, I'm wondering if there are any like guidelines from Joshua and the comms team. Maybe we even take the city background and add some sort of HREC specific element to it, but don't want to stray too far away from what those guidelines are.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think one of the suggestions would be to continue to, use the City of Bend logo. Couple of thoughts on that. You could actually add Human Rights and Equity Commission, obviously on any of your signature lines and within your name on any Zoom calls. Joshua, it looks like, is on this call. I don't know if he would be prepared to answer that question. I know other advisory council teams have had those questions. So Joshua, are you on, and would you be willing to answer that question?
Yeah, so if the team wants to answer it now, I can, or if you want to wait until it's sort of a proper agenda item, either one's fine. But the quick answer is probably use a background that the city already has. There might be some flexibility to customize it to the HREC. As far as I know, we haven't customized it for any other advisory committee. So that would be kind of something new, but I would imagine that's probably pretty simple to do in terms of standardizing. What we could do for not just HREC, but other advisory committees is just something we haven't done yet.
Okay, that's a great question. I think for now we can utilize the City of Bend logo. And Shelley, would you mind sending around that blue background that you have there as either the PDF or the JPEG or something?
Yes, I will.
And then we can talk about adding some HREC specific language.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Olivia.
Okay, let's talk about first where our first work line item is coming from. So these are our human rights and equity guidelines and policies. This is quite a long document, I mean 8 pages, that the governance committee will take sort of a finer tooth comb through. But in reading through this, the section that is most, I think, relevant and deserves this communication subgroup attention is this conduct of business at meetings, or sort of conduct section B. I have extracted section B, so all the way down through here, for us to edit today and provide feedback on in order to take that to the first governance committee or subcommittee meeting in the next week as they start their process of editing that 8-page document. But Mo, Jasmine, Shelley, and I really think this is where kind of like the internal communications bubble, how we talk to each other, amongst each other, about ourselves outside of this group, really come into play here. This is, and Shelley, correct me if I'm wrong, this is kind of language that's been used standard across sort of like city commissions or councils, but we can add a much more like deep equity lens here.
Yes, so this content of this document was taken from closely mirroring the Environment and Climate Action Committee, and so it's a base you can work from. There might be some parts of this that we just want to. That's why Mary's here with us today. But if there's some things that are related to code or things that need to stay in here for other reasons, she'll help highlight that for us as we go through. So just wanted to put that caveat out there.
Yeah, thank you. And so a lot of this might not, be relevant to like the communication subgroup, for example. I've highlighted this section in yellow here, mostly because I think it's going to be the most important for how we act amongst one another. So if we're finding that like points A through C are just sort of like quick boilerplate language we can skip over and get to the meat of it, like let me know. But my intention here was to start with letter A and go down. How does that sound? Okay, great. And stop me at any point. My tech is like all messed up today, obviously. So if I don't see hands or nods or anything, let me know. Okay. A, the meetings will be conducted by the chair or vice chair as they determine appropriate. Pretty standard. All HREC meetings will be conducted using Robert's Rules of Order as guidelines, unless otherwise governed by these guidelines and policies. My first question is, what is Robert's Rule of Order?
That's a very good question. So Robert's Rules of Order, Mary, jump in here, but it's a standardized meeting governance process, and we can definitely pull that out and give more information on what those look like as related to this working group.
Yeah, so Robert's rules are the parliamentary procedure rules. So it's like, you know, like how we make motions for approving your minutes, how you make decisions. It's what council uses. If you watch the council meetings, you'll see a motion and a second. If somebody wants to make an amendment to item that's in front of the HREC, that's, you use Robert's rules. Committees and commissions can be a little loose with their use of Robert's rules, although I would say the planning commission follows them pretty carefully because they're making land use decisions. You will see some groups that want to use a more consensus model. We generally say that's fine if you want more consensus decisions, but you do need the ability to make a recommendation. You will be bringing recommendations to the city council as part of your role when you get, particularly when you get to your plan, your action plan. There will be things that you want to bring to council that might sometimes require the need for a majority vote and a decision. So some sort of decision-making process is important for every committee and commission that has to make recommendations to council.
Okay, thank you. And Shelley and Mary, can we get that specific language?
Yeah, there's a cheat sheet
Okay.
for Robert's rules that like I've given the mayor. Like, how do you, would you like to see that, Olivia? Just so that you have a sense of what they are?
I think we all should probably see it just to
that?
make sure there's nothing, you know, glaring there, but.
Yeah, I can give that. There's like a 1-page kind of the basics of how they work. Probably you and Jasmine should have those so that you see kind of and see what you think about, does this look like something, the formality, is that something that we want to operate under?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see a
can send
hand.
one of those to you.
I see a hand, but I can't see who it is.
It's me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
So sorry, I was looking for my notes, so I'm a little bit behind for the first one. Do we want to have more specific explanation of what we mean by chair or vice chair conducting meetings? Or I mean, like, I put in some notes of chair and vice chair are facilitators or monitors that members are having equitable opportunities to speak and be heard. Officers guide the flow of the discussions and provides feedback after commissioners have spoken. I don't know if we need to have more detail of the very first one, A, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like conducting the meeting, what does that even mean? So do we need to have a more transparent definition of what conducting the meeting means?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And there is some language in C that I've highlighted that says the chair will make every effort to monitor participation during each meeting's agenda, so that everyone has the opportunity to be fairly heard. We can move that up under A. And then I liked some of the call outs you had about officers as well. I think we can add that in here too. So maybe something like this. And then we can call out something about officers too. We want officers / subgroup leaders.
I'm just thinking also for future terms, if I don't know, if we have any neurodiverse commissioners right now, but just, you know, having the officers to really, I guess, clarify what has been said to allow people to absorb what's going on a little bit, to give opportunities to think about if they need to respond. And again, just to get about not everyone's neurotypical and understand stuff right away.
Okay, we can mark that. Clarity. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely more there. And like last time, I'm going to share all these docs with y'all for view. And so we can add comments, I guess, for review next session. Is that okay, Shelley?
Is that,
Go ahead, Jasmine.
I was just going to say that basically in order for us to stay in compliance with how this works, when you will have to, rather than using like the comment feature on this document, it's going to have to like read it on your own time, make notes, very specific notes, and then send those into Shelley for now as our staff liaison. And then Shelley will compile those notes for the following meeting so that they can all be done in public meeting, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, C. Agenda will be distributed by email prior to each meeting to allow business to be conducted efficiently. The HREC members will contact the chair or vice chair prior to the meeting if they have questions or believe there are items to add or delete from the agenda.
Do we want to put a deadline of when those need to be submitted, like agenda topics?
Does anyone have a thought or opinion on lead time there? If not, this can be a takeaway to Jasmine's point that we bring back for next.
So yeah, I am kind of wondering about the flow of this. So we're saying the agenda that's the first version of the agenda goes out, and then we give everybody 48 hours maybe to respond after that if they have thoughts, so that those can be discussed and added. Something like that. Shelley, can you weigh in on what you think is realistic here for this timeline?
Well, I think you might want to start with membership sending agenda items to you and the vice chair, Jasmine. Maybe, I don't know if you would want to get an agenda item 24 hours in advance of a meeting, because I think it'll be really hard, to make that change and resend everything back out. We have to have all the agenda items to our internal staff, to Kayla, at least 48 hours in advance of each meeting so they can be posted. So I think what you could think about is maybe going back from there. So maybe agenda items should be discussed or sent to the chair and vice chair within, if you say, at least 3 days in advance of every meeting. And then, you could say that agendas will be sent out and materials will be sent out at least 48 hours in advance of every meeting, because or it could be 72. However you want to.
Okay,
that.
what if we made it on the flip? Okay, so what if we went to the flip side? So we conclude the monthly HRAC meeting and like give the timeline to provide feedback on the following meeting prior to the first draft even being created. That honestly, like, we could put the work to the front of that timeline. That seems better, so that when we go to talk to our staff liaison, we already have the input from the other HRAC members, if that makes sense.
Well, one thing that other subcommittees sometimes do, or
Mhm.
subcommittees or even advisory council bodies, they actually have an agenda setting item at the end of each meeting. And they actually clarify what is the plan for the major agenda items for the next monthly meeting. That way you can have that discussion together, and then you can say within the next week or 2 weeks, as the chair, you would like to hear any adjustments to that plan. You know what I mean? So you have like that discussion together, what the plan is going ahead for the next meeting. People have clarity about what that is, so you're not distributing a draft agenda out for, you know, discussion via email.
That's what I
Okay.
was going to say. I think, Jasmine, most committees will talk at the end of their, especially one that has so many important topics like you do. If you're just getting lots of ideas, it would be too chaotic, I think. So at the end of your meeting, you can all discuss what agenda items, and then if something comes up and it's really important, you can decide whether, if it's small, there might be time to add it. If it's big, at the beginning of your next meeting, you could vote, do we want to adjust our agenda and decide on this new topic and take something off as a group? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's at the end of every HRAC meeting, chair and vice chair will solicit for agenda items. And then chair and vice chair would work with staff liaison to create agenda. And it is sent, you know, whatever that one is sent out an email to everybody. And then I would love to give people, commissioners, like 72, maybe not 72 hours, but like 48 hours to give a note. Hopefully it wouldn't be too drastic ultimately, because we already talked about what was going to go on it. And then we'll finalize the agenda. Let it be posted by the city. And then again, in that HRAC meeting, if the commissioners feel something's not working or they have thoughts about what needs to go on to it, they can do it again. We'll just like make space in the agenda for to discuss it. We'll make space in the agenda to discuss it. All right.
Okay,
So that's
agenda items
that's
to be
my
gathered.
input. Everyone else can talk.
I've got my hand up.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
I have a thought here. I think it would behoove us to not be very strict with this, because the nature of what we are doing, there's a lot of things that happen in between meetings, and we need to have some built-in flexibility, like our last meeting, to kind of table everything and address things that are super important. So I think I recommend caution with hours and timelines, because we need to have flexibility. And then if you have 48 hours prior to a meeting, who's going to monitor, and like what happens if there's just a lot of other layers? What if I give you something at 42 hours? Are you going to tell me no? Like, I think we just need to have a little bit, zoom out of this a little bit, and maybe include in our agenda minutes, like the statement there, hey guys, please get your comments to me no later than 2 days before the meeting. Because I think that would be just zooming out on this a little, I think would be helpful.
Okay, so to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that we do comments 2 days before, because it has to be posted. So that I don't think that would work necessarily. So what I'm thinking is, what I'm saying is, when we send out the agenda, which is hopefully would be more like a week ahead of time, that everybody has 48 hours to weigh in. And then we could put amendment D, like, this is flexible, or this is like, the timeline is, can be changed upon discretion for matters of urgency or something like that. because obviously this is more like guidance to help us be organized, but ultimately, of course, there's going to be, we just need to put in our language that, of course, we are open and flexible because of the nature of our work to having to make changes from the status quo, breaking from the status quo.
Just for the sake of time, I'm going to have a comment here. And again, you'll all get this document to view. For all of us to revisit and provide comment, send those notes back to Shelley. We can even provide comment after we go through this flow for, say, the meeting on the 27th. But there is a lot more here, and you'll see at the bottom, there's like some etiquette and like respect things that I think probably should surface to the top for us, especially after last meeting. So
That's what I was gonna say, Olivia. I was like, I feel like tabling that and then going to the things where like about people staying safe in the meeting is gonna be.
Yeah. And again, I'm so sorry if I'm missing hands, so please just cut me off here. Meetings will begin and end on time. If agenda items cannot be completed within the scheduled time, HREC will determine whether the meeting should be extended or if the discussion will be suspended until the following meeting. Meetings will be conducted in a way that the HREC members have an opportunity to hear various points of view before making motions or decisions. Now, this is where we get into the meat. We can come back to that one. I'm sure there will be more thoughts as I get into the highlighted portion.
I have a thought about that one real quick. Just
Thanks, Mo.
basically just like from a facilitation standpoint, like that's essentially saying like facilitators will be like, okay, this is your moment. Like, you know, who would like to make comment? Sort of like, you know, just like trying to be really conscious around like when there's something that's being discussed, okay, does anyone have anything to say or add to this? This is the time. And then if it's not there, like obviously giving a moment of pause for that, of course. And if it's not there, then, you know, kind of as a way to protect you, Jasmine, as the lead facilitator as well, too, so that people aren't being like, well, I didn't get to talk, you know? It's like, no, I did the thing. Those are my thoughts about that.
I added some notes just based off of what Mo is saying. Facilitators should allow for moments to comment, object, share opinions. If that moment of pause has no comment, then we proceed. That might not be the right language, but what are people thinking about that? Because I know, like, from my perspective, sometimes I'm processing so much that I can't even get it out in that moment of pause. And we have short meetings. I'm trying to balance allowing all different types of processors the time while also being time constrained.
And sometimes on Zoom, it takes a while to think and then unmute. So I think the moment of pause is really important.
I think it's good enough for now. I think we keep, if no one else has anything as modeling the moment of pause, does anybody else have anything to say about that? Cool.
Okay. HREC members will conduct their business with integrity, thoughtfulness, and collegiality. In order to foster a positive discussion environment, committee members should use welcoming and inclusive language. Be respectful of different points of view and experiences. Discuss and, okay, we'll just stop. That's a lot. Oh, I see. Yeah, I see a hand. Sorry. I got a notification about a hand.
It's me. I can't tell how many hands are up, so I wasn't sure if it was me or someone else. Instead of foster a positive discussion, is that possible for us to change positive to productive?
Any objections in our moment of pause?
No, I like that a lot, actually.
I also like it a lot.
I also like moment of pause. It's already gaining popularity.
So that's Mo. Okay, committee members should use welcoming and inclusive language.
Can we add something to the effect of reducing harmful language? Start meeting with reminder, you know, response to like, to not use I-focused type comments, and more thinking about community focused comments or responses.
Hands.
I'd like to, my hands up, I'm gonna add, I think this might be a good point to say something around using language that is rooted in concepts, beliefs, or whatever you want to say around equity, diversity, and inclusion, like an awareness of those concepts, because those are sort of like why we're all here. Something around that. Go for it, Jasmine.
My suggestion was that we like put maybe out under, we put a example. I'm trying to think if this is, yeah, there you go. Cool. Examples, proper pronoun use. What else? Body language.
Yeah. I really like Sher's point about reducing harmful language. That might be like avoiding generalizations and using, I statements. Anyone else have a better idea? Okay, we can come back because there is a section about pronoun
You
usage.
could put minimize,
Okay.
minimize use of I/feel statements. I feel statements.
Is it possible to be like, if you catch yourself in a bias, just acknowledge, own up, be accountable to yourself, in a public manner of just like, oh, actually that was a bias, and just kind of have that moment of pause, I think will be powerful.
Yeah. I see one more hand. Or maybe not.
It's Jasmine's hand.
Oh, okay.
I just lowered it. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. I'm sorry. I don't have that visibility.
I'm Adrian, I'm going to call on you because I find that I appreciate your perspective. And I also notice that you tend to be quieter in groups, but I'm just curious how this is, like, if you have any thoughts.
I like to absorb a lot. I, just to be honest with and transparent with everyone here, I'm still in that phase for myself personally, in that learning aspect of equity and human rights and everything. But talking about the accountability portion, I think one thing that would be good is if you feel pretty strong about something and it's still or the generalization aspect of it, that if you want to, you feel strongly about something, I think we should have an opportunity for that person to say, this is my opinion, and then so at least you're giving that person the floor to speak about what they need to. But the accountability aspect of it is saying, this is how I feel, this is my opinion. And I don't know how you all feel about that, but as far as the accountability portion, I think that's good.
Thanks.
I'm wondering if that could be a part of what Adrian just shared could be help expand too.
Oh.
Actually,
Great call.
it just seems like we should spend a whole point kind of talking about how one, you know, shares their passion, opinion, and because they do matter, obviously.
Mo and I talked about this as we were prepping for this call, the idea of respect. It's super hard to define, you know, put verbiage to, but you feel it, you feel respect, you know, when you've disrespected someone. However, if this is going to be our conduct documentation, I'm wondering what you all think about like more explicitly defining respect or respectful conduct.
Go for it, hon.
I'm glad you brought that up because again, it's just like another word that needs more definition, specifically for our group. Not just respect, but viewpoints and experiences. I had on my notes to kind of expand on why it's important, not so much what the definition is. And so I just kind of put, you know, when we allow for the space for people to be who they are and they know they are being valued, it disrupts the stereotypes and reduces harm, not only for the individual, but for our community. So I don't know if that's something we want to put in there just to like give an example of why it's important, why we do this.
Olivia, I had my hand up, but I want to wait until you're, because I know you're doing a lot. You're writing and.
Keep it coming.
Okay. One way to sort of, I'm just thinking about one way to sort of foster a respectful environment is to, oh, I just lost it. Is this sort of, sometimes I talk to parents of teenagers about this in my work is like, do you want to be right or do you want to understand, right? So something around listening skills, like respectful listening skills are really about listening to understand. So you're listening to understand a person's perspective or a community member's call, like you're listening as a way to try to understand what's happening or what they're going through, what the experience is, rather than listening to be right or to have a rebuttal. It's like the difference between lawyering somebody, no disrespect to lawyers, versus like understanding what's happening for somebody.
Yeah, Sherry, Mo, I think you're both saying great things.
And then one other thing that might help with creating a respectful culture around communication is, I don't know if people heard of the WAIT acronym, WAIT, which stands for Why Am I Talking? So as a prompt to enable mindful speech or just like awareness of how much room we're taking up, and in the inverse of that is why am I not talking? Right. And so to sort of have that acronym kind of floating around our culture might help facilitate respect, because respect is hard to define, but those kind of processes might help create more awareness around like, why am I talking or why am I not talking? So WAIT is a way to remind us of that.
See a couple more hands. Oh, I can see them now. Hi, Melissa. Come on.
I think Sherry was up first.
I'm just giggling here because I was like pretty much going to say what Mo was saying with the WAIT to the same acronym, and also just to encourage perspectives. I hope that we really lean towards that encouraging perspectives, because if we don't allow folks to speak, we won't be able to collaborate and innovate. And that's what we're trying to do as a community. So thank you, Mo.
Yeah, that's, I love it when that happens.
I was going to add, I think, Sherry, maybe it was your language from some time ago about calling out versus calling in when there is a misspeak or a bias. If that was your language, Sherry, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I feel like, I feel like a call in is more welcoming people in to share their perspective. Even if, if we are too aggressive, then it's about right or wrong, right? My belief is right and yours is wrong type of thing. And that's not like the approach I think we should have when we're talking with each other. It's more of, hey, I welcome you in. And to share your thoughts so we can have discussion. And I go back to, I kind of bring this up. It's kind of like, for instance, we live in a culture where we expect people to come out, right? And that could be terrifying. And that's, some people end up having to get, have the fear of getting kicked out of the house because they have to, come out, right? And I kind of feel like it's kind of the same perspective. If we allowed people to welcome us in, as opposed to they are coming out, it's more of a shared, respectful, inclusive space where it's like, okay, I'm here and I'm thankful that you are willing to share your life with me. So it's willing to share your perspective with me. And calling folks in sometimes is asking deeper clarifying questions, but in a thoughtful way, if that makes sense. So it doesn't sound so aggressive. And I know it's hard for folks who live an intersectional life. If you are perceived as a woman of color, for instance, it's a little bit more challenging to try to welcome people in because you may be seen as aggressive for saying certain comments when you tell someone something. So I think it's more of the dominant white Western culture to be a little bit more mindful when people are saying things that maybe they're not calling you out, maybe they're calling you in. So like that uncomfortableness may need to get checked in a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, Sherry. That was really beautifully said. I really appreciate your perspectives with respect to harm. That's a new perspective for me to gain, and I appreciate it. I wanted to mention, and we all probably know this, but I don't know if the dynamic is a little different in the sense that we're not only accountable to each other when we have these conversations, but to the public. And I wonder if that would change some of, like if we have that reminder somehow, because certainly, I don't know if we have language somewhere where if there's a conflict, we address it personally instead of publicly, because it just, I don't know, it can feel spicy.
So I had an idea after our last meeting with this, and I sent it to Olivia, of being able to show via colors where we were at. And I just used a color system, red, yellow, green, of like, I don't know if we'll be in Zoom forever, but I don't even know if it's possible to have a green background saying that, hey, we're here, we are ready to rock and roll. If we put a yellow background, that means, ooh, something is making me feel a little uncomfortable. I may need some time to digest what's going on. And then a red background screen would be like, hey, I'm full on triggered. I don't know about this. Maybe I need to like walk away, or I need some more support from everybody to get through the next conversation or discussion. So I put that in there in our notes but I don't know if that's even going to be helpful for us. So we could hold ourselves accountable when we see each other in a space where it's like, oh, there may not be in a comfortable space right now. How can we support each other through this?
Real quick, I just want to make note of time and that there are 2 hands up, Adrian.
Yeah. And Sherry, I do have that idea documented. Thank you for bringing us back to that. I would think that's great here. Adrian or Jasmine, go ahead.
I see you going.
Okay.
Just quick, and I don't know if I can verbalize this correctly, but one of the things that going back to our last meeting is the way we question things as well. Like one of us has a question for another member or someone in the community or whatever be. I think there's a difference between a respectful way to ask a question and a disrespectful way to ask a question. I think having that somewhere in this to be mindful of how we're asking questions is at least important to me, in the fact that what I remember is some questions are almost I don't even know if this is a word, but accusatory, where you're asking a question in the hopes that they're going to be wrong. I felt that in some aspects, we're all, if we're asking questions in that format, almost disrespectful, we're pinning ourselves against each other, and almost it feels dirty. So I think being mindful of that respectful aspect of how even we're asking questions should be pretty important, in my opinion.
Thank you. And Jasmine?
I was thinking, I mean, it was no like, it's obvious that I was like fully triggered by our last meeting, and I was thinking along the lines of what Sherry brought up. Maybe we could just verbalize it. Maybe we don't need to necessarily, because that's dependent on Zoom, and maybe we won't always use Zoom. I think I tried to say at one point, I'm sorry, I'm like incredibly emotional or da 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 da. But it would have been nice kind of to have a shared language around a color kind of scheme. And I've been like, I'm out of black, or I'm out of brown, and just had said that and had the other members understand it. I don't know. I thought it was a really great idea. I just don't know, if it's feasible, I guess, for the background color change. And also that is, dependent on technology. So there could be a way to maybe just verbalize that. And I think that was almost what it feels natural. And that's what I was trying to do. I felt very vulnerable. I felt very emotional, and I wanted to be like, disclaimer, I am frustrated. And so I feel like everything that I say is suspect right now, because I am, writing on emotions and feeling judged on those emotions. And I understand that is happening.
I just want to say a few things, and I know we're like very much almost done. Jasmine, I think, and to speak to the kind of possible color coding system of communicating how we're doing, I think one thing we're running into is that the diversity of being in a group of people with varying degrees of emotional intelligence and the difficulty in that. And so I'm wondering if, to simplify that, if at any time culturally, if people just like get to call a timeout, like pause, like hold on, my hope would be is that people have enough self-awareness and awareness of other, again, emotional intelligence, essentially, to know when someone's observably upset or feeling overwhelmed. But I feel like if we get too far into this, I think some of this might just have to be an acceptance a little way, like that not everyone is going to be at the same level. And so to really create a culture where we're looking out for one another, when something like that's happening. If the other thing is the word triggered is a word that gets thrown around culturally now all the time. And I don't think everyone fully knows what that means. But like on a neurobiological level, when people are triggered, sometimes they can't talk or move. And so I think we need to be mindful of that too, is the belief, like if someone's triggered, we should say something. We might not be able to. And so to somehow just, I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there just for information's sake. And then the other thought I'm having is I would really like to have this document in some way, like less rough draft form before our next meeting, because it feels so imperative for the safety of the group. And I don't know if we have time to make that happen. And I'm wondering if we can make time somehow.
Yeah, that's where I was going to take us next, just to close. I'm going to share this document with all the roughness with all of you. If we could kind of commit to say like an hour each with eyes on this document, providing edits, notes. Shelley, this is going to be annoying, I know, but sending those notes back to Shelley so Shelley can collate all of this as a section that ultimately we, like I was saying at the beginning, lift and shift into what the governance committee is taking to final in our guidelines. Is that reasonable in the next, we meet the 27th, is that reasonable in the next 10 days for everyone to commit an hour to providing edits and thoughts on this document?
I know I can commit to that.
I see nods, I hear some things.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I see Mary's hand up. You're muted.
Sorry. If Shelley gets the comments and then and you have the time, Olivia, she can share them with you. The issue is just you talking amongst yourselves with your comments. But if you would like to see them after she collates them, that's fine.
Then I guess Jasmine, Mo, let me gut check this with you. So if we all commit to spending an hour, let's say getting comments back to Shelley by the 15th, that's 1 week. So by next Friday, getting comments back to Shelley. Shelley, if you could then collate those and send them back to Mo, Jasmine, and myself for review, just in case there are any like gaps that we need to fill, and then bring that for presentation to, I guess the next meeting would be the commission on the 27th.
And then my question would be, are we then allowed, the three of us allowed to like talk about the notes? Yes.
No, that would be a meeting outside of the, I mean, you can individually look at, I mean, three of you, how many's on this commit? How many's on this committee?
There are
6.
4, 5, 6, 7, 7.
Oh, so that wouldn't be a quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Down. No quorum.
That's not a quorum. Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't come back. So this gets so complicated. If you come back with like it's fine. I would say if the three of you talk and have ideas, that seems fine. That's not a quorum.
Okay.
But you're not going to come back and meet as this group before you take it back to the HRAC. It seems like there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done still.
Well, or what we could do is take it back to the HRAC and say, like, this is still a rough draft, but just so you know, this is the kind of shift we're creating around culture and communication. So heads up, y'all.
Yeah, it's coming. Sherry, I see your hand.
Okay.
And you guys, I'm sorry, or folks, I have to go. I got a client, so I'm going to hang up, but goodbye. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Mo.
No, I just wanted to mention that I just saw Elizabeth was able to jump in finally. That Elizabeth had some comments, so I'm not sure if we still have like a couple minutes for Elizabeth.
No, I can go ahead. Thank you though, I've been listening in the entire time. I just got the invitation to join as a panelist like 30 seconds ago, so I jumped in. Thanks for all the comments. I will share any input I have with folks individually, so I'm not taking up more time. But thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Sorry about that. Okay, y'all,
Thanks,
I'm going to send
Elizabeth.
this. I'm going to send this document your way. We're all going to commit to looking at it for about 60 minutes before the 15th and get comments over to Shelley.
Actually, would you mind, Olivia, sending it to me and then I can put it in a format and put it out
yes.
to the subcommittee, and then people can just respond back to me, and then I will commit to compiling all of that, collating it, and then schedule a meeting with you, Mo, and Jasmine soon after that date, that 15th. So maybe the 19th or 20th, we can get together, review all of those edits. And then Jasmine, why don't you be thinking about the agenda for October, November meetings and how you want to, bring in the two subcommittees that are working on this document.
Thank you all. It's never enough time, but always a good time. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks for all your hard work.
Bye. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.